just request everyone to mute their mics and their video, and request you also to be as loud as you can so that all of us can hear you.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining this online meeting. This is morning. Please mute your mic. We're starting the meeting. Thank you. Namaskar from India. Thank you for joining from India, from various states and from overseas, our colleagues from Asia Pacific and headquarters. This is the launch of Project Nirmanshree by Habitat for Humanity India. This is a project with the European Union. We thank the European Union for choosing Habitat for Humanity India to partner with to work on this women's empowerment project across 2 states of Odisha and Maharashtra and 4 districts. We are about to impact 2 lakh families through skill training and capacity building of the women. This is to impact the housing sector. May I request everybody to please mute their mics? Thank you. Habitat India is grateful for the partnership with the European Union, an exceptionally important project, especially in these times when more and more people are being pushed into the poverty index. At the onset, I'd like to welcome all of you and also especially all our NGO partners who have joined us from Maharashtra and Odisha, district level officials, government officials from various departments, especially the Women and Child Department, the Agriculture Department, special missions like the Odisha Livelihood Mission. We are very happy about this partnership model with the government, with the European Union, and our NGO partners, and especially our community. Today, we will formally launch the Nirmanshree project. You will hear from the Managing Director of Habitat for Humanity India, from Ms. Delphine Brissonneau, Attaché, Cooperation Section, Delegation of the European Union to India. You will hear about our project update from Chief of Party, Mr. Davidson. Voices from the field, where you will get to see the women we are working with. And we will be able to also hear from John Lindon, our foundations, organizations, and institutions lead at Asia Pacific. I'd like to take the opportunity to invite Mr. Rajan Samuel, Managing Director and Chair of the Project Management Committee, Project Nirmanshree. Over to you, Rajan.
Thank you, Lara. Good morning, everyone. We are really excited today that we are, in spite of the lockdown, in spite of COVID-19, we are still able to officially launch the Nirmanshree project, funded and supported by European Union. So in the next few minutes, I'd like you to walk with me in terms of what Habitat has done in India during the last 37 years. Our dream, our vision is to make sure that everyone, every Indian has a decent place to live. You can kindly mute your mics. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. So our core domain expertise is shelter. And these are 4 verticals, that we are involved with. We firmly believe in holistic, integrated approach, engaging the community, and also promoting what we call as the housing ecosystem. Our core verticals are decent shelter, wash, water sanitation, hygiene education, disaster response and risk reduction, and of course, global village. We promote volunteers who come and build with us. Let me stay on the slide and talk about the integration. So today we are launching this project in Odisha. And in Odisha, we have done, a lot of work around housing. We have done, finance unfinished houses. We have built new houses. And in Puri, currently, we are promoting disaster resilient houses, the kind of houses that you see below. So I think this project that we are launching, it's not very far from Puri. And so the Nirmanshree project will get exposed, all the women who are going to be trained and who are going to actually participate in this project. will have exposure to a lot of other interventions that we have done in Odisha and in Maharashtra. Let's move to the next slide, please. And just to introduce the Board of Trustees, these are prominent people from different walks of life, and they provide the direction, they provide the policy framework, they guide the organization. It's a governing board. We have a governance board, and these are the people who govern the organization. And this is the advisory committee headed by Srimati Rajeshri Birla. These are prominent business people from different walks of life. They support us. They support Habitat's work. They make the connections for us with the corporates, and through them we are able to raise the resources which supports the mission of Habitat. This basically gives you a snapshot of what we have done in the last 37 years. We have, of course, footprints in 26 states, 194 districts. A passionate, vision-driven, employees. We have 183 team members. We work with almost 132 partners, and some of the partners are on this call today. We have 10, project locations around the country. The numbers are there. We have impacted in the last 37 years more than 35 million Indians through different interventions: shelter, water sanitation, disaster response, and risk reduction. I'm also happy to share with you that Habitat India has been awarded A1 rating by CRISIL rating, and it's the highest rating given to an NGO in India for financial efficacy and program delivery capacity. Next slide, please. I want you to travel with me to Villipuram in Tamil Nadu and meet Kavita. Kavita, she's a Irula tribe. She's a local leader, and she's also now promoted a self-help group. And this is the first Irula colony that we have established. Hello. There are almost 220,000 Irula families living in Tamil Nadu. And, their primary occupation has been to catch snakes and rats. And after Habitat intervened through our partners in Tamil Nadu, today, I'm happy to say that Kavita is teaching the Irula community to catch fish so that they can fish for themselves. And you see all the beautiful houses there. Here, Habitat has done a 360-degree engagement, securing land from the government. I think that's what we talk about, 4P partnership: people, private, public partnership, promoting livelihoods, options, creating self-help groups, and connecting with the government so that we're able to tap into all the government programs. I think the details are there, tapping into subsidy from the PMAY, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, and, for sanitation, for housing, and 68 families have availed multipurpose loans from the government channels. I think this, talks about Habitat's DNA. So we want the community to be engaged from day one. So our focus here again is empowering women and adolescent girls. So at the end of the day, we not only promote shelter, we're talking about promoting a holistic integrated intervention which will sustain the community in the long run. Next slide, please. A snapshot of our COVID intervention. In the last 139 days, we were able to serve more than 850,000 individuals across 19 states in 54 districts. We have given out family essential kits. We have given out hygiene kits. We have done conditional cash transfer. We have set up what we call as a Habitat Care Center. We also have promoted behavior change communication plus training. Next one, please. So Pathways Permanence is our COVID-19 program framework. I thought I'd just, talk. Situation was very different. We still had 78 million Indians living in poverty housing. Post, COVID and lockdown, we have a lot of people have been pushed into a new category, what we call as the new poor category at the bottom of the pyramid. As you know, that there are almost 400 million people in the informal sector. Many of them are pushed into this new category. So our strategy, Pathways to Permanence, will enable people. It'll create a path to durable, permanent, and sustainable disaster resilient shelter from prevention stage to protection and to recovery and reconstruction. And we firmly believe that shelter indeed is a vaccine which will provide immunity to the poor, whether they are impacted by COVID-19 or any other natural disaster. Next one, please. So my last slide, I want to talk about the project Nirmanshree. Today we are doing the soft launch. We have already done a lot of groundwork, and my colleague Davidson will help with the updates later. So this project will support 3,000 marginalized women with technical and entrepreneurial skills. And it will also establish 50 women-led social enterprises. And ultimately, the housing sector in both the states will be impacted. Almost 200,000 families will receive some form of, services and market linkages, which will impact shelter, on the whole. The details are given there. And so, like I said earlier, both in Odisha and in Maharashtra, Habitat, has been involved in promoting different intervention. So when we promote this Nirmanshree project, we are also creating, linkages with the current projects, so that the exposure market opportunities for this 3,000 marginalized women will open up, so that so it's not only this 4 locations that we are talking about, but I think they will have market access in the whole state of Maharashtra and Odisha. And thanks again for joining us for this soft launch. Thank you again. Over to you, Lara. Thank you. Lara, you have to unmute your mic.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rajan. Completely agree with you. Our work now more than ever is so important, because we need to work on housing, on livelihood, on empowerment. Women face the worst brunt of any disaster, and in this situation, the pandemic, the world is going through. The Nirmanshree project is going to impact, as you said, 200,000 families. We cannot wait to hear more about the project. I'd like to invite Mr. K. Davidson, Chief of Party, Head of the Program, to please take us through what the project status is now. Thank you. Davidson, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lara, for the introduction. And good morning, everyone. Thanks for all the participants, 200 plus participants in this launch. We are excited about this launch, as we all participate in the Nirmanshree launch on this day, important day, supported by European Union. So thank you, Mr. Rajan, for setting the stage of this project and helping us to understand the overall project goals in both the states, in Maharashtra and Odisha. So as rightly said, actually, this project is all about economic empowerment of the women, marginalized women, including the single women and widows as well. And in order to help them to build the capacity of the women, we'll be training them on the entrepreneurial and technical skills. So can you please move to the next slide, Tarika? Yeah. So here we can see some of the specific objectives and objectives of the project and the project locations. There are 4 project locations: Denkanal and Jajpur, Osmanabad and B district in Maharashtra, where we actually mapped all the social issues involved around housing and housing allied sectors in those locations. So primarily the project actually revolves around housing, and Habitat in the last 10 years have created a market space, also created a market for the new housing construction, unfinished houses construction, and also home repair, improvement, home extensions, productive housing for the people, those who are doing the micro enterprises in their households, and also incremental housing, helping the people to build the houses in stages. As well as on the sanitation side, we have done individual household sanitation, community and school sanitation as well. In addition to the sanitation, we have done the behavior change communication training, as well as the financial literacy training for the people, especially the women, considering the women as a focus. So also we in this project, we want to go a little bit extra by disseminating the schemes from the government related to the housing, sanitation, and energy sector, so that people can avail that through our market linkages and with the key holder support. So the project duration is for 3 years, as it's informed before. So we'll be improving the economic condition of the women by helping them to improve their technical and entrepreneurial skills. And through that, by the service and the delivery of the products and services, they will impact the quality of 200,000 families in these 2 states. The next slide, please. Yeah, these are the core and major activities of the project, and which are considered as the key deliverables. So we'll be selecting 3,000 women from these 4 districts through our selection criteria matrix, uh, and the people those are willing to come in on existing entrepreneurs will be selecting from the existing federations and self-help groups. And when we build the capacity of the women through the classroom and the practical trainings, will be helping them to develop and establish a 50 women-led enterprises. And through that enterprises, we'll be developing a community participation mechanism in order to participate in the planning, designing, and also improving the policies of relating to the housing and sanitation sector. And with regard to improving the practical learning for these women, we are developing 4 production and unit center, which is called Nirmanshree Facility Center, to showcase all the practical learnings and also on-the-job training for these women, so that these women can help the other people to reach the households. And also we use the technology-enabled solutions right from the survey, and also we are creating an mobile app called Nirman app in order to enhance the digital learning platform for these women. So one of the key findings so far is that the mobile penetration in these locations are very low. So we are using we'll be using the youth, young boys and even girls as well, which will be the tool to carry this digital learning platform to these women, uh, and also to engage the multiple stakeholders. So primarily this project will impact 200,000 families through the services and market linkages through this social enterprise. Next slide, please. So primarily we have come up with the 4 categories: product, service, trade, and home improvement, which can be done through the social enterprise or the involvement and the participation of these women. So what we have shown here is only the samples of those 4, and we have has a huge list of it, which will be which are the list of the product, service, trade, and home improvement, which will be adaptable to the local block level or the district level or the state level, will be explored with the help of these women. And also we are trying to facilitate the process of availing the government schemes through our market linkages and stakeholder support. And I have given some of the schemes here, like Mudra, ECLGS, and UYEGP, banks, MFIs, and corporates. So we'll be disseminating the schemes about, and we'll be equipping the families, as well as providing the technical and handholding support to these women in order to achieve their social enterprise and to sustainably run their social enterprise in the long run. And as Mr. Rajani rightly said, we are exploring the reach beyond our project locations, as well as we see a lot of demand in the housing and housing allied sectors in this location. So which will be empowering a lot of women in those locations as well to reach out to these families. The next slide, please. Yeah, I wish to share some of the project achievement or specific significant achievements so far. So in terms of the project program planning and startup, we have uh, set the stage for the preparation, and we have developed and designed the tools for the assessment and for our implementation plan and monitoring and framework. And also we are started our baseline preparation to collect the survey with the baseline with the mobile app, using the volunteers at the village level as well, which we call them as the Nirmanshree messengers. So these people, young boys and girls, will be picked up from the respective village and will be engaged in the mobile-based data collection by using their cycle and 2-wheelers, so that they go to the household and collect the baseline survey. So because of the COVID-19 and lockdown restrictions in the locations, we are exploring to conduct the focus group discussion as well as possible. So wherever the situation is convenient, favorable to us, we'll be doing those kind of assessments as well. So otherwise, we'll be using the technology platform to collect the baseline data. So primarily, we are looking at collecting the baseline data with 5,000 women, as we assume, in order to mitigate the risk of the dropouts. To select the 3,000 women, we'll be targeting 5,000 women through this baseline survey. And also the project management committee has been formed, where Mr. Rajan is the chair and CFO is the vice chair, and all the key members and the subject matter specialists are there in the committee, which Lara will be introducing later. So that committee is providing the guidance and strategic positioning and reviewing of the project regularly. So we are also explored partnership with various stakeholders at the district level and at the local level as well. And the comparison study and the mapping of social issues around housing and housing allied sectors in the 50 villages is an eye-opener for us, as many families need new houses, and many families need funding for home improvement. Many families need sanitation, and also some of the families need electricity connections and solar interventions. Yeah, move to the next slide, please. Yeah, these are some of the next steps we'll be targeting as part of the project. We are planning for a 3 days workshop for the project team as an extensive one after this launch. And as we started the partnership exploration in all the levels, we'll be expanding that through to different level as well. And we are planning to do a project inception workshop with all the stakeholders, including the federations. And also planning meeting across all the levels has been underway, and we will be strengthening that going forward, and which will be an ongoing process. So also there are discussions we have initiated to constitute the project advisory committee at the district level, including the key project stakeholders, to take the project forward and to understand the project goals and objectives and the estimated results needs to be achieved. And also we'll be implementing the COVID-19 response by Habitat India, which is very crucial at this point of time, as the COVID-19 economic impact severely affected the marginalized women and the families in these locations. And we'll be restoring and rebuilding their confidence level from the time of the survey, as well as providing them the handholding support from Habitat India, along with the multiple stakeholders and market linkages to achieve the project goals. I once again thank you, convey your thanks to the European Union for supporting this project, as this project is unique of its kind for Habitat India, and we as a team strongly believe that we will ensure the project success. So thank you very much.
Hello.
Over to you, Lara.
Thank you, Davidson. Thank you so much. We can really feel the energy and the passion in your voice. It's so good to hear that the project is up and moving, and we really pray to God that you can go the extra mile. You can help with your mics.
हिंदी में बोलिए कुछ बात.
You can go the extra mile to help the families right now during the COVID times, and also make sure that the women can launch their social enterprises, and we can see this to a fruitful end. Thank you so much, Davidson. I have some technical announcements to make. When someone is speaking, please mute your mics and switch off your videos. The second one is that some of your devices' names are being visible in the participant list, and your real names are not being seen by us. This is a request to please put in your actual names, and this will also take care of security reasons that we have. So please put in your names. Reminding you to mute your mics, because we are coming up with a short video from our partner areas, from the women who are a part of this project. So I request my colleague Tarika to please put up the video so that we can see for ourselves Project Nirmanshree.
The women in this village will be one of the potential trainees of Nirmanshree project. The trained women contributes to the habitat development in the area of housing, energy and waste solutions with the marginalized and vulnerable families. We are having our volunteers at village level serving as the Nirmanshree messengers and travel in bicycle and collect baseline data from the community using mobile.
हम 750 महिलाओं के साथ काम करते हैं।
हिंदी में बोलिए। बहुत आग्रही अच्छु हम बहुत खुशी यूनियन जदि मानकर घर लाइन तो ड्रेन पानी लाट्रिन सुविधा करने इच्छुक अच्छा ताले आमको सहयोग कले आम आउ टे उन्नतिमूलक काम करूँ।
Thank you. आप सबका स्वागत है हैबिटेट फॉर ह्यूमैनिटी के मीटिंग में। ये निर्माणश्री प्रोजेक्ट हमारा उड़ीसा और महाराष्ट्र में जारी है। मेरे से गलती हो गई कि मैं शुरुआत से थोड़ी हिंदी में नहीं बात की, क्षमा चाहूँगी। आपके लिए थोड़ा संक्षेप में बता दूं कि ये प्रोजेक्ट दो प्रांतों में महाराष्ट्र और उड़ीसा में है। 4 जिला में हम लोग ये प्रोजेक्ट कर रहे हैं। 3000 औरतों को हम ट्रेन करेंगे और उनको कैपेसिटी बिल्ड करेंगे ताकि वो एक अपना एक सोशल एंटरप्राइज मतलब एक छोटा बिजनेस शुरू कर सकें। 50 छोटे बिजनेस शुरू किए जाएंगे हैबिटेट फॉर ह्यूमैनिटी के साथ। हमारे को इस पूरे जर्नी में यूरोपियन यूनियन साथ दे रहा है। हम उनके बहुत शुक्रगुजार हैं। आपका तहे दिल से धन्यवाद करती हूँ इस मीटिंग को ज्वाइन करने के लिए। आप अपने गांव, अपने प्रांत, जिला से हमारे को आज जुड़े हैं, शुक्रिया। और हमारे अभी मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर राजन सैमुअल ने आपसे बात की हैबिटेट फॉर ह्यूमैनिटी के बारे में, कैसे हम पूरे हिंदुस्तान में कोविड-19 के रिस्पॉन्स में काम कर रहे हैं और हाउसिंग और सैनिटेशन को लेके हमारा काम है। मिस्टर डेविडसन ने आपसे बात की निर्माणश्री प्रोजेक्ट के बारे में, हम कैसे आपके साथ उड़ीसा और महाराष्ट्र में काम कर रहे हैं। हम चाहते हैं कि हमारे साथ आपका सहयोग बना रहे। शुक्रिया, धन्यवाद। आपने हमारा एक फिल्म भी देखा जिसमें हमारे जो ट्रेनर्स हैं, जो जिला लेवल पे हमारे साथ कोऑर्डिनेटर्स और औरतें, महिलाएं काम कर रही हैं। आशा है कि आपको ये प्रोजेक्ट अच्छा लगेगा और हम हैबिटेट फॉर ह्यूमैनिटी के साथ आप जुड़े रहेंगे। Thank you so much. I'd now like to invite Ms. Delphine Brissonneau, Attaché, Cooperation Section, Delegation of the European Union to India. Ms. Delphine has a master's degree in environmental technology and management and also a master's degree in agronomy. She has been with the European Union since 2005. She is currently the Attaché at the Cooperation Section of the Delegation of the European Union to India, actively involved in planning, identification, and close management and monitoring of the European Union funded projects. She takes a proactive policy dialogue role in particular in promoting sustainable development policies and sharing information on European Union related initiatives and priority policies. She has been working in the Asia Pacific region since 2002, focusing on various issues, notably in the energy, environment, climate change, land, and natural resources extraction sectors. We welcome Ms. Delphine Brissonneau and request her to please address the meeting. Thank you. Ms. Delphine.
हिंदी में बोलिए कुछ।
A very good morning to you all. Mr. Rajan Samuel, Managing Director, Habitat for Humanity India, distinguished guests and participants, it's a great pleasure for me to be with you today on the occasion of the launch of the Nirmanshree project, an initiative that has received funding from the European Union at the end of 2019 and that started early 2020. As you mentioned, you've given a bit of background on myself. I just wanted to say that I've recently joined the European Union delegation here in India. I was posted in Myanmar before, and it's really a pleasure for me to be with you today. Amid the pandemic crisis that the world is facing these days, let me first congratulate Habitat for Humanity for your work on the COVID-19 response here in India and empowering marginalized women. In light of the presentation you just gave, Mr. Rajan, the work of Habitat for Humanity is very impressive. And once again, I'm very happy to be with you today and learn more about your organization and the project that you are implementing here in India. Allow me to put things briefly into the context from our perspective. Of course, as you all know, India faces significant challenges in unlocking its economic and demographic potential. Notably, there is a need to bring more than 270 million people out of extreme poverty and to build adequate infrastructure, strengthen the connectivity between regions, and ensure there is access to education and health services across the country. Needless to say that the COVID-19 pandemic has had a devastating social and economical impact and rendered people working in the informal economy at risk of falling deeper into poverty. We are talking here about 400 million people working in the informal economy, including in the construction sector, housing and non-housing, who are most vulnerable to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. And of course, with such health crisis lingering, the future looks bleak for these workers, given the financial distress being faced by the market. As a result of the lockdown in March 2020, the marginalized communities have faced loss of shelter, livelihood, lack of food, healthcare, and other basic needs. And with no financial means and no documents to help them access relief measures related to food, healthcare, water, sanitation, shelter, and livelihood, over 1.77 million homeless Indians have become extremely vulnerable to the immediate impact and aftermath of the COVID-19 crisis. And women, children, and the elderly, of course, constitute the groups worst affected by homelessness, making them vulnerable to various forms of violence. Within India, development challenges are further aggravated due to regional inequalities between states and districts, as well as with regard to specific groups within society, especially in rural areas that face persistent challenges on many fronts, including housing. Additionally, the migrants who were previously working in cities and sending money back to villages are now out of work and back in villages themselves, adding to the rural burden. Therefore, there is a dire need to assist these communities, in particular vulnerable women whose situation has worsened over the past few months. And it is in this context that civil society actors like Habitat for Humanity have a critical role to play in ensuring that no one is left behind by tackling poverty as well as formal and informal obstacles to social inclusion. CSOs are critical and instrumental partners in reaching the most vulnerable and marginalized people, especially women. The Nirmanshree project sets ground in the housing sector, a sector estimated to employ currently over 50 million people. It provides direct employment to 16% of India's workforce, and it's the second largest employment sector after agriculture. Women constitute almost 50% of the construction sector workforce, but face various kinds of discrimination and are given almost no opportunities to acquire skills. They mostly work as unskilled labor, carrying construction material on their heads, and also manage other household work, including childcare. Nirmanshree is therefore a timely intervention that would assist in enhancing the technical and entrepreneurial skills of women, thereby empowering them. It will also develop the leadership of these women in housing and related sector by creating women-led enterprise with the goal of strengthening their livelihoods. We will also promote climate adaptable and green housing support services at community level and influence gender sensitive housing policies and programs. Let me say a few words on EU and civil society organization in India. We've been working closely with civil society organization and local authorities, promoting transparency, accountability, participatory development towards creating a more conducive, fair and democratic environment, and enabling civil society groups to operate in and effectively reach the poorest and the most vulnerable people. While foreign donors overall is maybe shrinking, the EU is among the few remaining donors working with Indian CSOs here and continuing supporting their role. At the moment, we support over 40 CSOs projects in India, and the latest call, which Nirmanshree benefited from, focused on impacting the life of vulnerable women and girls by building capacities to scale up their work through partnership and engagement with social enterprise, private sector, cooperative and social businesses. On this note, I would like to again congratulate you for serving an important role, working to help the poor, marginalized, underserved population, especially women, fill in the gaps that exist and also create local networks and resources, fostered upward mobility for the poor and marginalized people by generating jobs and opportunities, as well as providing low-cost housing and facilitating engagement of these affected communities. So on this note, I again, congratulations for the launch. This is just the beginning of a 3 years partnership. And we look forward the success of the project, and we look forward hearing from you and your achievement as implementation progresses. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Delphine. Thank you for talking to us about European Union's objectives and aims and what you want to achieve around the world. We wish you all the best. We thank you for partnering with Habitat for Humanity India for the benefit of our participants. I'd just like to share something on what you said in our national language, Hindi. आपने अभी मिस डेल्फिन ब्रुसनो को बात करते हुए सुना. वो यूरोपियन यूनियन से हैं, जिनकी वजह से ये पूरा प्रोजेक्ट हिंदुस्तान में हो रहा है हैबिटेट फॉर ह्यूमैनिटी के साथ. वो अपनी चिंता जाहिर करती हैं पूरे विश्व में, जो अब कोविड की वजह से सबको सहना पड़ रहा है. इंडिया में खासकर गरीबी बढ़ चुकी है, क्योंकि इकोनॉमिक क्राइसिस भी है, कोविड हेल्थ क्राइसिस भी है, और बेघर के बारे में उन्होंने अपनी चिंता जाहिर की. उन्होंने कहा कि महिलाएं, बच्चे और वृद्ध लोग जो हैं वो खासकर इस कोविड में परेशान हैं और उनको सहायता की ज़रूरत है. हैबिटेट फॉर ह्यूमैनिटी के जैसे अन्य जो सिविल सोसाइटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं, एनजीओज हैं, वो बढ़ के काम कर रहे हैं और यूरोपियन यूनियन उनका सहयोग कर रही है, सहायता कर रही है. निर्माणश्री प्रोजेक्ट को लेकर वो बहुत उत्सुक हैं, क्योंकि महिलाओं के साथ ये प्रोजेक्ट हो रहा है और उनका मानना है कि अगर महिलाओं के साथ काम किया जाए तो पूरे परिवार की बढ़ोतरी होती है, पूरी कम्युनिटी की बढ़ोतरी होती है. तो निर्माणश्री को लेके वो बहुत ही उत्सुक हैं, आशाजनक हैं. और उसके बाद उन्होंने ये भी कहा कि यूरोपियन यूनियन भारत में 40 ऐसे प्रोजेक्ट के साथ काम कर रहा है और एनजीओज और सिविल सोसाइटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस को सपोर्ट कर रहा है. हम यूरोपियन यूनियन को धन्यवाद देते हैं. आगे बढ़ते हुए मैं थोड़ा हिंदी और इंग्लिश में दोनों बात करना मैं कोशिश करूंगी। थैंक यू आप लोगों के सहयोग के लिए। मैं इनवाइट करना चाहूंगी मिस्टर जॉन लिंडन को, जो हैबिटेट फॉर ह्यूमैनिटी इंटरनेशनल में काम करते हैं और फाउंडेशंस, ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस और इंस्टीट्यूशंस के हमारे लीड हैं। I'd now like to invite Mr. John Lindon, Associate Director, Foundations, Organizations and Institutions, Asia Pacific, Habitat for Humanity International, to please address the meeting and talk about the partnership with the European Union and Habitat for Humanity International. Thank you.
Hi, thanks, Lara, and thanks, and good to see you again, actually. And thank you, Rajan, for inviting me, and thank you also, Delphine, for making time for this this presentation. I actually, now that I saw you speaking, Delphine, I now know that we've met before. You probably don't remember this, but I think when you're in your capacity in Myanmar, I met you at a Switch Asia event in Hanoi I think it was November 2019. We briefly exchanged business cards, but nice to see you again anyway. And good to see that you've moved on to India, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy that posting there in a fascinating country. Before I actually I joined Habitat for Humanity in October last year, 2019. So I haven't had a massive amount of exposure to our work with the EU so far for Habitat for Humanity. But in previous positions with voluntary services overseas, VSO, which is a UK voluntary organization, we did a lot of work with the EU in around Asia, particularly in Cambodia, and in other positions with the Centre for International Forestry Research and Mines Advisory Group and British Council. We also did a tremendous amount of work with the EU, so I'm very familiar with the work of the EU around the world, and I think it's definitely worth mentioning now the tremendous commitment that the EU as an institution has kind of shown to international development, and not just that. In the current climate, there's a lot of pressure on organizations, countries and other organizations, multilateral organizations, to reduce their funding to international development. It's kind of there's pushback all around the world on that front. But it's interesting to know that the EU is actually planning to increase its funding. So for the next the next phase of their strategy, which runs from 2021 to 2027, they're going to be putting in 123 billion euros to international development. I've got no idea how much that is in terms of lakhs and crores, because I can never kind of do that calculation into but you can imagine 123 billion euros is a tremendous amount. And so actually that's what a lot of EU delegations around the world now are actually working on their strategy formulation for that next 7-year period. And we in Habitat for Humanity are actively trying to engage with the delegations around the world in terms of trying to influence them and see if we can get the issues that are really important to us in terms of housing and related issues into those strategies at the country level. I should also mention actually the commitment that the EU has shown traditionally, and I'm sure will going forward, their support for civil society organizations. For many organizations, NGOs, INGOs, CSOs, EU funding is, excuse me, EU funding is their lifeblood in some cases. And the reason it's important is there are many other big donors around the world who are putting in substantial amounts of money to international development, but quite a few of them actually favor working with for-profit organizations. And so actually what happens is you find that a lot of the funding actually kind of flows out of the areas that really should be kind of capturing as much as they possibly can, especially at the local and national level. But the EU doesn't operate in that way. It favors working with INGOs, NGOs, CSOs, those kind of more kind of grassroots level organizations. So that commitment is really appreciated by everybody who works in our sector. And so I should mention that 123 billion budget is a 30% increase on the previous budget. So that is a pretty great commitment at a time when international development budgets are really under stress right across the world. So that's kudos to the EU for that. And looking at it in the areas that the EU have focused on over the years, and which I'm sure will be a big part of whatever comes next, the areas such as gender equality, which is what we're touching on here with the Nirmanshree project, the funding that has been channeled through the European Instrument for Democracy and Human Rights. So it's looking at rights across the board. That's been a tremendous source of support for the work of civil society sector in many countries around the world, and India's, as we just heard from Delphine there, India is no different. And the funding that they put towards the strengthening of the operations of CSOs, making them better at what they do, that's been a tremendous shot in the arm for INGOs and NGOs all around the world, and that's come through the civil society organizations and local authorities budget line, which has been a funding mechanism of theirs for many years. And the big one, which kind of is the issue that all across the globe people are paying attention to, is around climate change. And EU has been a strong supporter of positive action around addressing the all aspects of climate change, actually. And what we know that is in the future, when we think about funding with the EU, we always have to now reference the European Green Deal, which is the European Union's blueprint for addressing climate change going forward, and that's going to be a part of everything that we look at going in the next kind of 6-7 year cycle. So I just mentioned briefly that the strategy activity is happening at the moment, strategy development activity within the EU delegations, and it seems that India is actually a little bit ahead of the curve. Habitat for Humanity in India, having already secured a grant. But for a lot of our countries in Asia, they're right at the early stages of their engagement with the EU. So what that means is, and actually not just in Asia Pacific, but also Africa and Latin America, what we're doing is we're having a global initiative to increase that level of engagement with the EU right across the globe. And the way we're doing that is, since the department that I work in was formed about a year ago, actually, we've focused in on developing strategies for 50, 52, 53 of the key donors around the world that we want to work with as an organization. Because for Delphine's information, typically, actually, Habitat for International hasn't done a lot of work within the institutional fundraising space. We've typically relied on other sources of funding to cover our work, but now with our new strategy, we're actually looking to expand and do much more on institutional fundraising. So you're already seeing that in India, but in other parts of the world as well. We're knocking on the door of the EU and other donors much more than we have been. What's interesting though is that the strategy development that I mentioned, the first organization that we focused in on in terms of developing a global strategy and then moving it down to the country level was the EU, because we see that's how important we see them the EU as an institution in terms of potentially supporting our work going forward. So that's what we're doing at the moment. In fact, this morning I was actually on a call with our office in Cambodia, talking them through their engagement strategy with the EU in terms of reaching out to the head of development cooperation and learning about what might be in the new strategy and trying to influence the formulation of that strategy so that we include the housing and related issues in there. But of course, I think it sounds like India is a little bit ahead of the game here. So I think what I'll be doing is I'll be circling back to the colleagues in India to ask them about how they've gone about engaging with the EU and how they've actually gone about securing this fantastic project, because I think we can learn a lot from what's happened here, and then kind of share that with colleagues around the region, and help them to improve their relationships with the EU on a country by country basis. That's where we are at the moment in terms of our engagement with the EU. We're kind of at the we're not like typical other typical INGOs. We're kind of at a very early stage of our development, but I think certainly for the next for decades, I think to come, the EU will form a cornerstone of our institutional fundraising strategy going forward, and I look forward to hopefully many more Nirmanshrees and other projects from across the Asia Pacific region. I will stop there, I think. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, John. It was a pleasure hearing you, and also the future strategies that Habitat for Humanity International and Habitat for Humanity India will use to raise funds for the amount of work that we want to achieve in India. We are also very grateful, along with you, to the European Union to be looking at India with more focus, to looking at issues of land and climate change that are increasingly going to impact every sphere of life, including women's issues, housing issues, and general well-being. So this is really important for us to know as well. The figure that you quote, I tried to do a conversion, but there are 10 to 11 digits post 23, so really don't know, but very excited to hear that there is going to be a focus of the European Union in the next coming 6 to 7 years. So we look forward to working with you, Delphine, and you have talked about how we raise funds. So I'd just like to inform you that yes, we have been raising funds by various sources in India, but the amount of resources available now through corporate donations is very challenging. The entire NGO sector is competitive for those funds. So new ways of fundraising, especially through foundations, institutions, is more than ever required in India today. We look forward to working with you, talking to you about all our work. I'd now like to introduce the Program Management Committee of Project Nirmanshree. I'd request my colleague Tarika to please put on the slides that have the wonderful faces of the Project Management Committee. It's great to put a face to the name. The Project Management Committee of Nirmanshree project basically guides, monitors, and provides the structural inputs to the project. It is the program manager who looks into the day-to-day management of the project, the chief of party. Allow me to first introduce to you Mr. Rajan Samuel, who is the chair of the Project Management Committee. He provides the overall strategic envisioning to the project. Next, very important position at the Program Management Committee is the Chief Financial Officer of Habitat for Humanity India, who is the Vice Chair of the Program Management Committee. He is Mr. Nilesh Sawant, who makes sure that there is stringent financial compliance of the project. We have Mr. K. Davidson, who addressed everyone who is the chief of party of this project, Mr. Sanjay Daswani, who is Senior Director, Donor Management Programs and Information Management Technology at Habitat for Humanity India, Mr. Joy Abraham, Director, PDME, which basically takes care of the entire monitoring and evaluation of the project. So a very important person out there again. Mr. Nilesh Karkare, Director, Special Projects, Habitat for Humanity India. He makes sure that the most vulnerable and the most marginalized people of India get priority in our programming and decision making. Saint Kamai, Manager, Communications. He brings in the strategic voice to the planning of the communication of the project. So welcome Saint on Program Management Committee. Mr. Pramil Aruldos, the Deputy Regional Director from our Delhi office, and John Matthew, Deputy Regional Director from our Karjat office. We have the heads of the two hub leaders at this project to give the very important program perspective to the Program Management Committee. There is Aslam Nabib, who is the Associate Director, Program Development at Habitat India. He is the key person who manages our partnerships with all FOIs, and he has the unique ability to translate the grassroots reality into what can go into programming. Mr. Marco Montemayor, Associate Director, Programs, Asia Pacific Office. Thank you so much for being on the Project Management Committee. We also have Georgina Kurian, Manager, Grant Compliance and Donor Reporting. Very important, especially for this project in terms of financial compliance again. Mrs. Suprita Tambe, Director, Resource Development, who really ensures the various fundraising ways in Habitat India. Ms. Lavanya Vinagagaswamy, Senior Manager, PDME. She works with Mr. Joy and brings in the research and monitoring aspect to this project. Mr. Jalal Khan, Manager, IMT. He takes care of all the information and technology aspects of the project. We have also Rahul Bhardwaj, Manager, who takes care of the technical aspects of the project as well. Ms. Vanessa Pereira, Manager, Legal, who will make sure that all the legal functions are taken care of. Ms. Jasmine D'Souza, very important part of the project, who really is looking into the recruitment of the project along with Davidson. So Senior Manager there, Jasmine with Habitat India. Ms. Avasti Nair, the another finance officer on board. I understand that this project is of 3 years and a respectable amount. So we've really taken care that all financial compliance measures are taken care of by our experts on the panel. Mr. Joy Gurang, Senior Manager, PDME Neil, along with John and Lavanya, who is from our Asia Pacific office, and Mr. Ritvik Sawan, Director, Communications, Habitat India, who leads the communication outlook to Project Management Committee of Nirmanshree. So these are all our subject matter experts from Habitat India. We have tried to bring in various skills and expertise on board to give our best to Nirmanshree. So that was the Project Management Committee. For the benefit of our listeners, मैंने अभी जो आपको फोटोग्राफ दिखाई थी और जो जिनके नाम लिए वो सारे लोग हैबिटेट फॉर ह्यूमैनिटी इंडिया और हैबिटेट फॉर ह्यूमैनिटी इंटरनेशनल के हमारे साथी हैं जो प्रोजेक्ट निर्माणश्री में हमारा साथ दे रहे हैं, हमारा सहयोग दे रहे हैं और उनके साथ ही हम ये प्रोजेक्ट कर पा रहे हैं, तो उनको धन्यवाद कहना हमारा फर्ज बनता है। और यूरोपियन यूनियन को हमको उनके नाम और चेहरे दिखाने का अवसर मिला। थैंक यू। आप लोग सब कॉल पे हैं। हमारे को एक रिक्वेस्ट आई है कि हम हमारी जो फिल्म है, जो ग्रास रूट से उड़ीसा और महाराष्ट्र के हमारे जो लोग हमारे NGOs में काम कर रहे हैं, उनके साथ हमको ये फिल्म दोबारा दिखाई जाए, तो मैं तारिका से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी कि वो फिल्म फिर से चलाएं।
The women in this village will be one of the potential drainage of Nirmanshree project. The trained women contributes to the habitat development in the area of housing, energy and waste solutions with the marginalized and vulnerable families. We are having our volunteers at village level serving as the Nirmanshree messengers and travel in bicycle and collect baseline data from the community using mobile platform.
उस्मानाबाद डिस्ट्रिक्ट में कड़म और वाशी ब्लॉक में महाराष्ट्र में हैबिटेट के माध्यम से निर्माणश्री का प्रोजेक्ट चल रहा है। निर्माणश्री प्रोजेक्ट में हम 750 महिलाओं के साथ काम करते हैं।
हमें ये संस्था पे बहुत आग्रही अच्छु आ बहुत खुशी मध्य अच्छु। आमको यूरोपियन यूनियन जदि लोक मानकर घर आउ लाइन तो ड्रेन पानी लाट्रिन सुविधा करने इच्छुक अच्छा ताले आमको सहयोग कले आम आउ टिके उन्नतिमूलक काम करि परिबो।
Thank you, Tarika, and thank you everyone for listening. We are now at the end of our meeting, and it is my privilege and honor to thank everyone who is associated to Project Nirmanshree. This is truly. Rajan, would you like to say a few words before we end?
No, carry on, Lara.
So this is truly a partnership model. We have the government, the district administration, right from the village level to block level, all the government departments supporting us. We have our NGOs. But before that, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the European Union. And on behalf of Habitat India, I'd like to thank Mr. Raymond Megis, Chaired Affairs Delegation of the European Union to India. Also, Ms. Delphine Brissonneau, Attaché, Cooperation Section, Delegation of the European Union to India. Mr. Shobik Datta, Senior Program Manager from the European Union again. And Mr. Shailendra Mathur from the European Union. I'd now like to thank our Habitat for Humanity International colleagues, Mr. John Lindon, Habitat for Humanity Asia Pacific, Ms. Rebecca Uchong, Advocacy and Policy Manager, Habitat for Humanity International, Ms. Michelle So, Director Communications Asia Pacific, and Anna Konochik, Operations Director Asia Pacific, Habitat for Humanity International. It is my honor to thank our NGO partners from Odisha and Maharashtra. We have with us members and representatives from our civil society organizations, partners of Habitat India, from Paryay, from Jan Vikas Samajik Sansthan from Maharashtra, and from Gram Uthan, Odisha. Also, all the other people who have joined us from our federations, our community-based organizations, microfinance organizations, banks, financial institutions, and NGOs. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'd also like to thank our corporate responsibility partners who have joined us, who have taken out the time to hear about the work Habitat does in India and to continue supporting us. We've had a rich round of sharings and discussion on Project Nirmanshree. I'd like to congratulate Habitat for Humanity India and Habitat for Humanity International for working with the European Union, wishing all the people who are responsible for Project Nirmanshree all the best, and at the end, wishing that God blesses all the women who are starting on a new journey of social enterprise, and to be with them and to wish them all success to change their life and their family's life going forward. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you very much for the
Thank you,
event.
Lara. Yeah, thank you, Ms. Daphne. We'll be in touch with you. Thank you very much. Sabko Dhanyavad. Thank you for joining us this morning for this launch. Thank you very much. Good day. God bless.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Have a
David.
great day. Yeah.
Thanks. Good.